Boy, do you want to tell them a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm the blogger behind High on Beignets, and High on Beignets is basically a lifestyle blog. You'll find stuff like information about festivals, restaurants, bars, and events, but you'll also get things like parenting and style as well.
Okay, that's dope. That's dope. So thank you for joining us today. This is our first podcast episode. So thanks to everyone joining in as well.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you. So today Shavoi is going to be talking about postpartum depression. Can you tell us what is postpartum depression?
So, postpartum depression is a type of depression that's experienced or can be experienced by mothers after they give birth. It's said to be brought on by, a sudden drop in hormone levels after you have a baby, and also the psychological change of becoming a mother as well.
Okay. So, as a Black woman, was there any stigmas that you felt for having postpartum or?
I would have to say no, simply because I did not share with anyone what I was experiencing.
Right. Okay. So you didn't share. Why didn't you?
Embarrassment. I didn't understand while I was going through it, what I was experiencing until like maybe months later. So I felt that I didn't have anything to tell anyone. I knew I was depressed, but not exactly sure why or what it was called or the title for it.
Okay. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because I've heard so many different stories about postpartum depression and the journeys differ. So how was your journey in particular?
Well, I got pregnant with my son. I have 2 kids. So my last pregnancy is when I experienced the postpartum after having my son. Had an awesome pregnancy. I did not work during this pregnancy, just very relaxed. And I was ready to have my baby. And then after I had him, I noticed shortly after becoming extremely sad, crying all the time, emotional, and then that turned into anger. And that's when I started to have those thoughts of, wanting to harm myself, harm my child. I felt that I was becoming careless. Like that thing that makes you pick up your kid when it's crying was withering away. So,
right.
Yeah.
So everything went as planned through your pregnancy,
Yeah, everything went as planned.
So that's so interesting because I know it's been a lot of stories that I've heard where mothers actually they may have wanted to do a natural birth, and then all of a sudden things changed and they had to get rushed to the hospital, and it kind of triggered it. Have you ever suffered any depression in the past?
I believe that I've dealt with some type of anxiety my entire life. Yeah.
Okay.
But the thoughts of wanting to harm myself or someone else, that was new to me.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I know that's definitely a symptom as well.
Yes.
If you've dealt with some kind of emotional issues in the past. I know I was a big candidate for it because
Really?
I used to suffer with depression horribly.
Yeah.
So, through learning about postpartum, I definitely was like, wow.
Yeah.
I was definitely a big candidate to have postpartum, but I'm just so grateful that it just passed me up.
Yeah.
That's deep.
It is.
So how long did it take you to realize you were experiencing postpartum?
Well, one thing that was consistent throughout my postpartum depression journey was I would always argue with my husband, at the time boyfriend. He would come in from work, and before he can even get comfortable, I'm spewing at him.
Yeah.
It's almost like I blamed him for what I was feeling, although he had really nothing to do with it. He did all that he can. But, in one day during one of those arguments, he said to me, I don't know if you're experiencing postpartum depression, but I don't know what he said after that because, those words hit me like a brick, and I just stopped processing everything after that. And I remember turning around, walking away from him, and, tears just running down my face. And I'm like, oh my God, am I experiencing postpartum depression? And I remember that's when I looked it up, and I think I was maybe a month in at that time. And that's when it hit me, okay, well, this may be what I'm going through.
Right. Is this something that you continue to struggle with till this day?
I want to say I dealt with it for about a year. I remember feeling back to normal around my son's first birthday.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you receive any sort of medical help through the process? Or did
Unfortunately, I did not.
Wow.
So when I went for my 6-week checkup, my doctor, everything was going as planned, a routine checkup. He's asking me questions about, me healing after the pregnancy and stuff like that. And he looked at me, he said, are you having any anxiety or urges to hurt yourself or anyone in your family? And I lied to him because I, again, was embarrassed. And I remember leaving that appointment like very disappointed in myself. Like I stood outside the building for a while, and I wanted to go back in, but something wasn't allowing me. Like I couldn't admit to him or to myself out loud that I was experiencing that. I got in my car and I sat there longer, and I just couldn't walk back inside and allow my doctor to treat me. And I walked away and I continued to deal with that for months.
Right.
Yeah.
So was it like that fear of feeling like you're going to be judged if you said those things?
Probably so. Yeah. I didn't know that it was so common. Had I known and educated myself that it was kind of normal, I probably would have, been upfront with him and like, hey, I am experiencing these things. Please give me some medicine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that it's like, it's heavy in the Black community, but it's not talked about. It's just swept under the rug. So it's a lot of people going through what you went through.
Yeah.
That they don't want to say anything about it.
Yeah.
They don't want that stigma placed on them and that judgment, which is understandable. Like I said, I'm a mother as well, so I couldn't imagine feeling those things about my child and being brave enough to say, this is how I feel.
And I felt guilty because in one thing I did that did help me, I will say, is prayer. I'm not a very religious person, but I was taught growing up to pray through different circumstances. But I felt guilty. I never regretted my child, but for some reason I had this going on within me,
Right.
So, yeah.
So you feel like that definitely helped you through the process?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. What about the mothers out there that are experiencing postpartum? Do you have any advice for them?
I would have to say, talk to the people that love you, the people that care about you. Let them know what's going on so that they can help you. And don't be afraid to tell your doctors and get the medication or talk to the mental health professionals that are there for you. It's way more common, way more normal than you think it is. So don't be afraid to get the help.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely can agree with that. I'm down with that because, like I said, it's heavy in the Black community. So it needs to be talked about. Don't be afraid. I don't know, there's help out there, join circles, groups of mothers, I think that helps
definitely.
As well.
Yeah.
So a support system as well.
Yeah.
Can't forget about. Did you have a heavy support system?
I did actually. I have an awesome support system. I just didn't let them know that I was going through that.
Okay.
And one day I was having a conversation with my mother-in-law. She's a very strong woman, and she was telling me about one of her best friends. Her best friend was raising someone's daughter that was going through postpartum depression, and she gave me this look like she didn't think it was real. And I had to stand up for that woman, even though I never met that woman. I'm like, hey, postpartum is real.
Right.
Like, this is what I went through after having your grandson. And she was like, why didn't you tell me? We could have helped you. And like, I was embarrassed.
Right.
I didn't understand it. So
right, but then in the same breath, like, she didn't think it was real.
She didn't think it was
real.
real.
So it was like, that's another reason why you may have been fearful to tell anyone, because people may feel like, okay,
like
you're
using
tripping.
it as an excuse or something like that. Yeah.
Right. So we definitely need people out there who are listening and who may have people in their family that are experiencing postpartum to, believe in it.
Yeah.
It's real. It's not a joke.
Right.
It's
the same as any other type of depression out there. It's just something that, it can happen to a mother.
Right.
Yeah.
That's deep. But, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I used to judge women, when I would watch the news and hear parents have done this to their child or done this to themselves. But now I look at it differently now.
Right.
Because I don't believe that a mother can harm a child. Like, even if you're not a mother, we're just naturally,
nurturers.
Right. We can't do that. So I just wish that there was some type of, system that they would have to go through before sentencing to. I know someone right now that's doing life in prison for.
Right.
I believe that she went through postpartum depression, which drove her to do what she did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think we've all been there. I've definitely seen things on the news where I've done the same thing. I've judged it, and I'm like,
how
what
could
kind
you do
of
that?
monster, psycho,
Right.
But, since starting Moms of NOLA, I've had conversations with women who have gone through it, and I'm like, wow, like, I know at one point with Sister Midwife Productions, I had to moderate a panel of women who had postpartum depression. And it was not a single dry eye, including me, the moderator. It was like,
imagine.
Wow, this is real.
Yeah.
And I really thought back to those times that I judged those women. And I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine that feeling. And I also had a conversation with a friend about it after I did the moderation. And he kind of had that same, like, I don't know about that kind of attitude, you know? And I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
It's real.
It definitely is real.
Yeah.
It definitely is real.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
See ya.
Bye.